listening to the AudioNowcast, sponsored by API. Now from the Nowcast Network studios, here's Mike.
Well, hey, listen, we had some of your fans. They posed some questions.
I have a fan?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, you have 4 fans. They just changed their names to different people.
Okay.
So we're going to go over some of these. Some of them you've actually already answered, but we'll still. We'll still.
I've got to say thank you to everybody who wrote in and sent in these questions. I've had a chance to look at them, the week before we did this, and I've got a few notes in my hand here because the questions were so good.
All right, well, let's start with the question number 1.
That's from Pete, and Pete, I believe, said, "What song off the album has the most meaning for yourself, and why?" And as I mentioned before, it's got to be, for emotional reasons, Golden. Purely for what I said before, it was a song that was written for healing and to honour a very deep friend. So Golden, Pete, is the song that means the most to me off of this record.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, this is from Rebecca, and Rebecca says, the artwork of Hotel, I nearly said House Stone, all my titles are the same. She said, I was thrilled when I found out that you created it yourself. What are the meanings behind the various creatures and objects that appear in the artwork? Well, for me, it's a very personal drawing, of course. I don't want to sound too esoteric about it, but the figure lying down on the hotel is basically a meditating figure. I drew this painting thinking about what was most important to me, and it was peace of mind. And so the figure in the center is basically every man, and a person basically reclining and meditating and trying to get in touch with the other elements which are in the picture, which are nature. I love animals, so you're going to see them in there. And I think the communication between humans and animals is very real. And as you can see, the horse is bending down to the main figure, and that's supposed to represent the communication of the animal world with the human world. There's been a lot of temptations in my life, so the serpent is definitely appearing at the bottom of the picture, and the serpent is, as somebody has also mentioned, spotted the key that's in the picture, and that's the key to beating temptation. To me, is understanding your own mind. And also the picture of the nature scene in there with the little road and the trees and everything is a reflection of where I came from, because I came from a very, very rural part of England, and it's romance. We've got the pyramid in there, and that relates a great deal to what I grew up absolutely loving with Earth, Wind and Fire, and Maurice White had a huge influence on me with his spiritualism. So I think the rest of it is just that I did try to do my best in a picture, no more about it. Hotel of the Two Worlds relates to me because of, as I've said before, it's the two sides of a person's character, particularly for me, the dark side, the bright side, the happy side, the sad side. I always think that there's a duality in us. But to really get to the nuts and the real meaning of this picture is I love painting, I love drawing, and I went to art college as a kid, and so I had a great big pad open for me to draw on, and I went for it. And then I had enough confidence to show this picture to my manager, and she said, it's pretty good, why not? And so we went for it, and I'm that's one of the things I'm most proud about, that I was able to get. You know me, Mike. You come to my house. I do lots of little bits of artwork around the edges. So it was great to have my artwork come out.
I was surprised you got the tattoo on your chest of that album cover.
Sorry, mate. What did you say? I'm going deaf. What did you say?
That you got that tattooed on your chest.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, it didn't come out too good. I mean, it's quite a complicated picture, and when the guy tried to do it on my chest, it was bloody painful. Too many colours to put on your chest, and I had to shave my chest to do it.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, now I hope I'm saying the name right here. It's Kayle Rock, or Kayla Rock, would you say? Is that pretty good? Okay. Where is the Celtic man? And I imagine that the Kayleigh Rock means in the picture on the well I didn't include him in the picture because he's everywhere else. He's on the website and he's on the album, all the other album covers, and so the Celtic Man is always with me, and I will admit to having the huge tattoo of the Celtic Man on my back, not on my chest. He is on my back. But no, the Celtic Man still survives. He's not on the album cover, but he is on the website. And Joseph asks, he says, this is what Joseph says: congratulations on an amazing new album and successful launch. There's now a no vacancy sign flashing outside the Hotel of the Two Worlds. When I first had a chance to listen to Golden, I was instantly drawn to the story behind the music and production of the song. The Bridges' soaring vocals are just beautiful. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph's question is, when you were composing the music and lyrics to Golden, do you remember the moment when you felt the song was for Mike Shipley? The integration of In the House of Stone and Light was both special and touching. When did this idea come into play? Did you find the song a special way to heal from the loss of your friend? As a listener, I never wanted that fade to end because I suppose it means we all have to say goodbye. Yet, Song for Ruth has shown us love never says goodbye. Thank you, Joseph. But as I said, Golden was written the day that Mike called me and told me that Mike Shipley had passed. So the song was written about him instantly. It wasn't a song that appeared and then I made it suit the situation. So that's the way the song appeared. It appeared on the day that I needed to heal from such terrible news. Tamara, is that how you say the name? Tamara.
You know what? I butcher names all the time. So
yeah, well, I'm a butcher here.
You're asking the wrong person.
I'm being told from the distance, Tamara. And Tamara says, hello, Martin and Mike. First, let me say that I'm crazy over this new CD. Love Resurrection is a great tune. It is a cross between folk, Southern Church, and Motown music good time feel. My question is, was Motown heavy on your mind when you wrote this? This is a very catchy tune. Nicely done. Yes, it was. As I pointed out, I was listening while lying in the bath. I was listening to my iPod in the distance, and on came some incredible Motown. And I just had the desire to try and emulate that wonderful, wonderful spirit of that music. So you're right. Motown triggered me with that song. Mary asks this: is there something special you do when you aren't inspired to create, but you're on a deadline for a song? Well, I've just answered that as well. I get in the bath when I get frustrated. I get into a very hot bath. I bring a cup of tea up there into the bathroom, and I play music from a distance. I put it onto my iPod, and I don't play it too close. I have the music playing vaguely away from me so that I'm still in touch with music. And slowly I come out of the dread, the pain, the desperation of not being able to write, which drives me crazy. I haven't had that feeling for a long time because I haven't put myself under a deadline like I used to have to do in the 80s, writing for films and stuff. That used to drive me crazy. I always need to take a break. A break is necessary. And the break for me usually, though, is only about 10 feet away from the studio. It's in a hot bath. And that's how I soothe myself, because I get into a bit of a state if I can't get a song going. TC says, I'm curious to know the meaning behind each of the components in the artwork. Most specifically, the mystical symbols and the key within the triangle pyramid. Aha, you spotted it. I also noticed that not only does the central figure resemble Da Vinci's illustrated man, but resembles your own Celtic man as well, with the same outstretched arms and separate quadrants, and the various animals. Was that the intent or just coincidence? And why is he sideways? Well, that's a great question, but I wasn't copying Da Vinci. I was really trying to just do a man lying down, meditating, slowing down life, and that's why he's parallel. But it's a good point. I noticed after I did it that the arms are outstretched, and there's a lot of closeness to the Celtic man. I can't say that I was following that, but I think those coincidences are sometimes just meant to happen. But the key, as you've just pointed out, I didn't think anybody would spot that. So you've got really good eyesight, and it means I must have painted it pretty well because it looks like a key. But the key to me is just, it's me. I'm always trying to get peace of mind, and I'm always trying to keep a steady course. and not go offline. So the key to me is meditation and prayer and staying straight and looking at all the positive things in life and trying to remind myself of that. So that's the key that I have to remind myself to do all the time. Meditate, 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 and slow life down. So that's what the key's about.
She has another one.
Yes, another one from TC says, I love the way that you've come full circle throughout this album by referring back to lyrics from earlier songs. Is there a significance to the repeated lyrics from Count on Me and Kindred Spirit, were both songs inspired by someone special in your life or simply by a similar theme? Well, it's simply by a similar theme. A lot of my songs are about recovery, healing. I'm proud of that. And the overtone really is about love. And when I say count on me and repeat myself quite a lot in songs, it's because I do. It's because those are common, powerful things to me. And But I think that's a mass coincidence, and I wish you hadn't made everybody aware that I keep on using the same lyrics in all my songs. You're not forgiven for that, TC. That's it. Angelica, In the Light of Dawn, is another song that has really impressed me. When I hear it, I think of peace, freedom, and friendship, brotherhood. What were your thoughts when you wrote the song? And let me say that I love all the songs. Congrats to such a fantastic album. Thank you very much.
You've got some deep fans here.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very lucky. Thank you, Angelica. Well, I think I mentioned it when Mike was playing Light of Dawn. Light of Dawn was supposed to be a purely an inspirational song of... in a way, I didn't mention this before, but it's a patriotic song. It has a lot of overtones about America because of what I was reading at that time, the great speeches by the great presidents, including Lincoln. So, and because of 9/11, I think Light of Dawn appeared as one of those kinds of songs that I like to write, which is we have to get up next day and the sun has to rise. There's no other way about it. We've got to keep going. So that's really where that song originated from. And thanks again, Angelica. I think I'm saying the right name here. I may need help. Deanna, Mr. Page. Well, you don't have to call me Mr. Page. You can call me...
Really? You make me call you Mr. Page?
Yeah, well, you need to. Just don't call me Marty. That's something I've never liked. I feel like when I first came to America, they used to call me Marty, and I thought I sounded like a golfer. Hey Marty,
Marty.
Are you going to play with a 4-iron here, Marty?
That is awesome.
I thought, don't ever.
Oh man,
but Marty,
you do realize
Marty.
I'm going to have to call you Marty at least a couple times.
But I'll accept Mr. Page from Deanna. I'm sure this has been asked before. But who or what has been your main inspiration for your songwriting? Who was your biggest influence when you first began your musical style? Will you ever go on tour? That's a great question because I wrote notes down on this because there's been several stages. At the beginning of my career, it was as a boy, I wasn't in music, but I grew up with the Beatles in the 60s. So when I was 10 years old, the Beatles were on TV and they got into my bloodstream. Then I fell in love at 16 and 17 with the bass guitar, and that was soul music. So it was Quincy Jones, Earth, Wind & Fire, Parliament, Bootsy, Louis Johnson, Rufus, all these bands, all the soul bands when I was 16 or 17. A little bit after that, I fell in love with progressive music. So I suddenly went into that Genesis big time. Genesis and Jethro Tull, all those bands that had romance about them and Old English. So I fell in love with, through 18 up to about 22, progressive was an influence on me. Then, when I had my record deal with Q-Feel, that was the beginning of the 80s. I must have been coming into my 20s or whatever. And it was Ultravox, Thompson Twins, Tom Dolby big time. Tom Dolby really influenced me as a songwriter. Prefab Sprout, Blue Nile, Robert Palmer because of his great techno album, which goes underrated, Clues. And then I came into my own as a songwriter past Q-Feel, and that became Elton John. Elton John is my biggest influence as a harmonic songwriter. And luckily, working with Bernie Taupin, I think it went very deep into me, that kind of Elton relationship. I'd grown up loving Elton as much as the Beatles, and I think he's one of the most underrated songwriters of all time. So the people that influenced me as songwriters from that period on to now have been Elton, Peter Gabriel, because of his emotional stance. Sting, I love Sting's work as well. I love great classical choral work that influences a lot of my hymnal emotions in my songs and effects. Would that be Taverner, Arvo Pärt, and Gurecki, Henrik Gurecki, the soulful songs, Symphony 3. So that's been in my late, my writing up to this point. As I can say, I came into real writing. I knew what I was doing as a writer and became quite good at it, I suppose. Was Elton, big time, Peter Gabriel, Sting, and everybody else I said. And of course, I bumped into Robbie Robertson, who influenced me great and had a profound influence on me on taking time on songs and making everything count from an emotional level. That was very influential. The other huge two influences to me were Maurice White of Earth, Wind & Fire, who taught me how to get the best out of musicians in a studio, to let the music appear and to speak for itself and not to force the issue. And then Bernie Taupin taught me, by working with him, how to search for the best words. Those three are the most biggest influences on me when I was in Los Angeles. So I hope that explains everything. That's how my progression as a songwriter, I think, went. Now, I hope I'm saying the right name for the next person.
Wait, no, you didn't. Will you ever go on tour?
Oh, good question.
That was your second question.
Boy, there's no plans, of course, because I'm on a little independent label of my own, and my songs don't get pushed to radio stations because I'm a small little village independent record company. So, but you can never say never. I mean, I feel fit enough and strong enough and healthy enough to have a go at it again. And who can say, sometimes I get that little tingle down my spine that I'd love to do it. But there's not really that demand for me to be out there. It's very, very expensive. That's the reality of it. But I'm still fit and healthy and raring to go, so I can't say it won't happen. We just have to keep our fingers crossed. Mike could go out with me again.
Hey, man, I've been pushing for a while.
Yeah. Well, you just cost a lot to take on the road, mate. And all the drinking you do and the drugs. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to take you out there.
The good thing with technology nowadays is it's doable.
Here we go. I know he's going to stay. Mike's been working on me for a long time.
I have been working on you, but you know what? We'll leave that for another time.
So many surprising things have happened to me as a songwriter. I can't say that might not happen again. So, fingers crossed. Let's see. Now, the next name, I hope I said this right, is Bernd Laurent. What other artists inspire you outside of music? Well, I thought that was a lovely question because I never really get asked that, and I did take some notes on that one, which I just want to have a quick look at. As you can hear, all the papers.
That's like 19 pages.
Yes, well, I've got to. At my age, you have to have notes. So in art, it would be William Blake, Turner, Constable, Caspar David, Frederick Whistler. I like the work of Matisse, of course, and Magritte, Waterhouse, and Edvard Munch. I enjoy their paintings hugely because they're so moody and dark. Great poets. Pablo Neruda's always affected me since I wrote Mi Morena. Walt Whitman, Keats, Byron, Wordsworth, all the romantic poets I'm obsessed with. And I like Baudelaire's work. He influenced my lyrics on Soulprint a great deal. And again, in art, I like, mostly the romantic stuff. William Morris and Edward Burne-Jones from the Victoria Age. Literature, it's got to be Shakespeare, of course. and Dickens. Now I love reading an author called John Gray, who's had a couple of brilliant books out that have wonderful tones of expressing life as a philosopher, a modern philosopher. His name is John Gray. A book called Silence of the Animals and Stray Dogs is fantastic. And my favourite philosopher, who I think is an artist, is Schopenhauer. So rather dark, but I think he's a wonderful philosopher. So that's that.
Hey, I have to give a shout out though on when you introduced me to Turner.
I
knew a little
William
bit,
Turner.
Yes, but when you started showing me that book on Turner,
he just had a wonderful exhibition at the Getty, and I couldn't miss that. Just to see his paintings in your lifetime is again, he was a beginning really for an Englishman, the beginning of great expressionism. I mean, he was the beginning before everybody started to really go into that place where you painted emotions more than you did express what you saw.
I can see your music in some of his paintings. I mean, once you opened up that, once you showed me that,
thank you.
I was like, oh, it makes sense.
Thank you. And you saying that,
Mike, it's blurry and a little out of focus.
foggy work, foggy. Yes, and everything's at sea.
No, it's brilliant.
Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. Just you saying that's a big deal. Joseph asked another question here. Hi, Martin. How come Mike is still your friend? Wow, that's pretty perceptive. I might have I missed one? I've skipped one, have I?
You missed Robert.
Oh, Robert. Sorry, Robert. I'm sorry so much, Robert. Robert Burgess Good. And Joseph, you have to wait a bit longer. I would be interested to know in what order you recorded the songs on the album, and at what point you felt the theme began to develop. Did you have the idea of what the album would be before you started recording, or did the theme present itself somewhere along the way? Well, Robert, it presented itself somewhere along the way, not straight away. Whenever I start an album, I don't really know I'm starting an album. I just write songs, and suddenly they start to stick together like glue, and I play them a lot in my car, and I suddenly, as I'm playing them in the car, go, these stick together really well, and I think I'm onto an album. I didn't really write Hotel of the Two Worlds planning to write it. An album appeared. And halfway through the record, as I said to Mike, when Light of Dawn was being worked on, I suddenly thought, this is a gospel kind of soul record, and I'm looking back to my heritage of when I was in the South. So it happened halfway through. Songs like Golden and Strong and My Mistress is Warm seemed to just come out of the edges of this other theme I had. They just seemed to be pieces of work which still worked with the album, but weren't really constructed to be the gospel kind of a whole gospel record. But the answer to that is I can't remember what songs I started first on this record. I really can't. I know that Kindred Spirit was written a long, long time ago. And then, as I said, I pulled it back up and worked on it again. So probably Kindred Spirit is the beginning of this, but it was written in 1922.
But you also...
First World War.
You also, when you write sometimes, you
unconscious.
Well, you're unconscious. But you play different songs at different states.
Yes.
It's not like you finish one and go on to the next.
No.
Sometimes you multitask on the different songs.
That's a very, very good point, Mike. Very good point, which I tend to forget. And that's happening at this point. I now more than ever in my life, I used to always start a song, stay on it, finish it, knock it into the ground, wear it out. Now I tend to do bed work, move on. Bed work, move on, come back, see if it's worthwhile. And now, I've said this to many writers when I've had the chance to talk to them at colleges and everything, is that I know how to edit myself now. And when you're young, you just finish a song. I used to write 40 songs a year, and 39 of them were crap, and one was good. Now I tend to write maybe 8 in a year, but there's been 6 or 7 started that never got finished. I now can almost tell if I should finish something. I'll do a really quick work on it, and then I'll listen back and go, this is worthwhile, or this needs to be thrown out. So, yeah, and another thing, this is good about technology. In the old days, when we were working on analog, I used to have to stay on that board and on that tape and not have the board change. So you'd finish that song because of the technology. It took me a while, as you turned me on to a Pro Tools, that I could skip between songs very quickly. And I had a great difficulty in dealing with that because I thought I was almost letting the song down by moving on to another file. It was like, oh God, will it ever be the same? You know, so I had to teach myself that you could work on 3 songs in a day. That's the wonder of Pro Tools. But now I would say an album grows organically, not like when I was a young boy. Each song the hell was knocked out of it, you know. Even if it was a bad song, I'd work 2 years on it, you know, because I didn't know. Now I know how to edit myself much, much better. So let's get to Joseph now. Hi, Martin. Is Mike still your friend? He's still asking that question. I'll add another question if you have time. Well, we do. Can you break down the method of recording the lead vocals, harmony, backing vocals to My Kindred Spirit? The vast array of vocals on Kindred make it one of my favourite performances on the new album. There is a power in the performance that cannot be denied by the listener. Thank you, Joseph. Kindred Spirit is a bit like House of Stone and Light. They're kind of brotherly songs in a strange kind of way. I think in a way Kindred Spirit was probably first started around the same time I started House of Stone and Light. I believe it might have been, and that was a time when I really did multiple choral vocals, answer vocals. It was a period when I'd like to answer myself, do multiple background vocals. I was learning about harmony vocals, Joseph, at that time. House of Stone and Light was a major record for me because it was my first solo record, and I was working at home, and I'd seen Robbie Robertson work at the Village on his own solo record and experiment over long periods of time. So Kindred Spirit, why there's so many vocals on it and why it's so full is because I was experimenting and I enjoyed putting harmonies on it. And as I said to Mike earlier, it's a kind of Bridge Over Troubled Water song to me, even though that might sound strange to people. It's a kind of a Simon and Garfunkel song. I don't know, chordally. You can take away the rhythm and you could sing it and you could hear it as a kind of, to me, Paul Simon kind of hymn. And Paul Simon wrote a lot of amazing songs with Garfunkel that had that kind of, to me, spiritual, hymnal, English, choral, gospel feel. Now also, with these vocals, which I think is because of my heritage with soul music, I'm singing, even without knowing it, gospel chants. I'm answering myself. I'm imagining I'm a huge choir, and it's only me in the garage. So, and 100 tapes. So it's me doing everybody's parts. It's me imagining I've got a choir, but I haven't. So that's where all that comes from, Joseph. Me imagining there's 1,000 of me in a room. Did you record the vocals? Do you record your backups in the Owl's Nest, or do you record them in your control room in the main room? I do them both. To give it the texture. Yeah, mainly what's great about actually recording in the new studio, not the Owl's Nest, but the studio you put for me, Mike, in the living room when I moved into the other room, is that it has a wooden floor. Right. That was a godsend to find out about, because I tend to use the microphone at a distance when I'm doing background vocals, and I like to hear the wood floor in the background blend. So I will move away from the microphone like this. As you can hear, I'm 1,000,000 miles away. Can you hear me? No, I'm getting closer. Yes, anyway, that was the effect. And so I would do background vocals in both rooms, sometimes in the Owl's Nest, because the Owl's Nest is really a garage, and it has a concrete floor. Yeah. I would leave the microphone 10 feet away in the doorway, and I'd go back into the garage on the concrete and sing from a distance and stomp on the floor like this. And I leave all that stomping in. And on Kindred Spirit, Delta, a lot of the songs that have a funk feel to them, I'm stomping on the floor as I sing, because I think that's got that kind of rootsy, rural thing.
Well, the Owl's Nest has a really nice reverb because of the concrete floor, and your control room.
And it sounds like a church.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the main room where you record and where you also sing, it's not dead. It has a nice little lively thing about it.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. Very lucky
with the wooden floor.
Very lucky because I thought that the room might not sound as good as it does. But the great thing about as we'll say this again for the audio file people, is that the Owl's Nest is concrete and a solid floor. So everything sounds different in there. You go into the control room and it's a wooden floor that's has got a crawl space underneath it. So when you stomp, you get another drum.
Yeah. And
the wood resonance, for some reason, suited my voice. There's even a lot of glass in that room because I look out the window and it doesn't. Sometimes I aim it at the glass and I go back and sing by the glass, and it makes you sound like, because you see, I'm doing all the vocals, and if I'm doing all the vocals, I sound like myself all the time. So I have to sing in space and against different surfaces.
Right.
I have to pretend I'm somebody else, and it's a different. And those different surfaces and the distance from the mic makes my voice sound slightly different in the blend of the vocals. That's why, Joseph, on Kindred Spirit, the answers I'm doing, you can accept that it's not actually the lead vocalist. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Even I can tell that I can get by thinking that somebody else singing those parts. So that's how I achieve that, by faking it, basically, and believing I'm a choir. Next question from Matt. I love the soul and spirit in all of your songs, but I am intrigued by what inspired All Too Human. What a cool groove. It's addicting. Thank you, Matt. Well, again, I think I've explained that this was primarily a groove song that first sounded a touch too much like Michael Jackson, and as I was working on it, I fell in love with the groove of ZZ Top and blues stomping music. I mean, there was a great period in blues music when they just stomped, and that's what I did with All Too Human. And I played, as Mike pointed out, live drums, live side sticks in the Owl's Nest, where it's very ambient. And so the track got this wonderful hump about it. Even though it's a drum machine starting the song, there's a lot of looseness around it. And I tried to play the guitar in a very loose, funky way. And that's how that sort of groove built up. But All Too Human was inspired primarily by trying to get a kind of Robert Palmer, funky, half tech, half rural funk groove. So it's a mixture of me, Robert Palmer, and ZZ Top in a small house in Encino. Another question, and this is the last one, from Angelica. You are still a friend of Mike Rodriguez. Wow, they really honor this, Mike. They are amazed that we are still together for 20 years.
The second part was, why is he still okay, forget it.
So Angelica says, I read that you have one of my favorite songs on the new album, I Got Faith in You, written already in 1992. A song about things, times and moments which most of us can understand from our own experience. It took over 20 years until you decided to sing this song yourself. Was there a special reason to wait so long, or was there a special occasion to do it now? Well, I think you might be, Angelica, confusing that song, I Got Faith in You, with My Kindred Spirit, because My Kindred Spirit was definitely recorded and written a long time ago. I Got Faith in You had been building up, I don't think as long as that, and it was quite a recent finish to it. But so I think the oldest song on this record is Kindred Spirit. But this song, I Got Faith in You, was basically, as I said to Mike, a feeling that I had, a personal song, really, that what I believe in is really what I can see. And that's usually a person. So my faith was in, the love of another person, the caring of another person, friendship. So I've Got Faith in You is basically a human talking to another human and getting strength from that bond, from that power, that bond. And that is all the questions we have time for tonight.
That was,
and I just want to say again, I apologise if I got any of the names wrong in the way I'm saying them. But as Mike says, we're all allowed to be butchers now and then. But I want to thank everybody for those great questions. And the fans, all of you out there that are listening to this, you've been pretty amazing with the release of Hotel. You've made it seem very worthwhile. And I thank you very much for that incredible launch and support. And I hope the music still turns you on. Thank you. And I am still friends with Mike.
Hey, this was fun.
That was great.
That was like, okay, just so you know, we did not stop. We went top to bottom.
How long did we do? How long did it go?
It's almost 2 hours.
Wow. Will people listen for 2 hours? That's the problem. That's why we put the questions at the end, so that everybody has to wait to the end, you see. Well, I really enjoyed it, Mike, and, thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, no. Come on. You're my brother, as they say, and we've been together for a while. And I'll tell you what, half the fun of being your friend is just to see the music. I just love the fact that, I get to hear some of this stuff early, and it's great. And I know when I first heard this album, it really spoke to me. It was really amazing. I played it like 3 times in a row, and I just could not believe how awesome it was.
Thank you, buddy. You've been a real spark through all these records, and people tend to forget. Well, I don't, but the studios were basically conceived by you. So this music comes out of you putting me in a good habitat to create. Yeah.
It's also, if you think about it, we're moving on to the new space, the new setup. This was the last.
Oh, I'm amazingly excited about it. What we're about to do
on that other one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much. If you're still listening, I hope you've enjoyed this. And Martin, thank you so much for joining us and just talking about your album and really getting into the nuts and bolts of it. And if you have any comments or questions, you can reach us at audio@nowcastnetwork.com. That's audio@nowcastnetwork.com. But you know what? You can go on his Facebook page. He's really active on Facebook, and he answers questions.
And there may even be a photo on there of the Hotel of the Two Worlds on my chest. The tattoo may be revealed. It may be. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure it really turned out too good, but I may reveal it.
I'll tell you what. And for everybody out there, and just trust me on this, you ain't heard nothing yet, all right? That's all I'm going to just say. I'm just going to end it right then and there and just leave it. But you have not heard anything yet. It's only going to get better. All right, Pagey boy.
Thank you, buddy.
We're going to wrap this up, and we will catch you next time. And you can also catch us on our normal podcast where we have all the cast of characters. And Martin, you'll be joining us again soon on that one.
You bet.
All right. So for myself and Martin, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Audio Nowcast, sponsored by API and Westwave Audio. The Audio Nowcast is hosted by Mike Rodriguez and uses Apex's 230 Master Channel voice processor. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.